Hey, what's happening? How you doing? Hey, check it out, your mom grew some chest hair. Look, look, look. Just kidding. Made you look. Alright, that was a 30-second intro. Now moving on. What are we doing today? This is the podcast for today. Welcome in. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great day. I hope you've been having a great day is what I meant to say. Let's move on. What I was going to try to talk about today is the conceptual master plan. In essence, it's not necessarily a master plan, but what we're talking about is the first step of how we're going to try to go down this little road that's bridged by little steps that have taken a bit of conceptualization to try to put things together so that in the future that this podcast connects other things down the road like little pieces and building blocks and such things and so on and so forth. So from this point, what we want to do is conceptualize how a podcast even makes sense or what this is even relevant for. And we'll have to go ahead and try to see. But what we want to do is connect this to sort of music that we want to try to make it possible to connect these vocals with some other items and sounds in essence so that eventually we can try to distribute some content that can transport across some borders some days, and so that there are countries that can share inside of this mindset, mentality, methodology, factory, if you will. I hope you care to consider spreading and sharing the nature of this joy that's within this mindset that comes within all of these little blurps. So let's move along down the little bridge line of where we're going with this. Let's try to focus. To begin with, what we want to do is start with the branding element and then cruise into the podcast, and before and after, back and forth. What they want to do is complement each other. They want to complement each other like a rubber band. In essence, they go back and forth like a bridge, and you go run back and forth through the bridge. Alright, now let's go on down. How is this gonna go from here? We wanna see, where's this podcast gonna go? Yeah. Wanna take us into an element of merchandising, but not exactly. One step before that is actually connecting with partnerships along the way if possible as we go on in time. And what I mean by that is in essence something that is referred to as like partnerships, like a network, like artists, like an artist network of partnerships, a partnership of networks. So it's vice versa as well. Go on ahead down that path in such a visualizing what I mean. Alright. So in terms of partnerships, what we want to try to do is just continue to find people and such things around the world, and this conceptualizes how we want to try to get to our merchandising aspect in essence regardless, which entails merchandising for other brands and sort of collaborating in certain ways like Supreme does or Palace, the skateboard companies, and such. So how we want to try to go about that is even go a step further and sort of do new products sometimes along the way in partnerships that don't necessarily always result in brand new products and such, but it entails sometimes brand new energies. New energies is the hope and the interest of certain partnerships that can travel in a short and wide mind frame, but uses business as the guise to try to get it there. And also philanthropy, we call it philanthropic energy, to try to move things down the line so that ultimately merchandising is like merchandising, like advertising and merchandising at the same time. So we distribute our message surreptitiously. Yeah. And moving down the line, if we can develop a global element of partnership mentality that we hope to instill an element of cellular interests to play like children again across the world so that all people feel inclined to try to go this route and make businessification into childrenification elements so that there's more fun across all countries and all people find a way to try to play together every single day. Instead of just a business, it becomes about games that are an obligation to fulfill, and therefore everyone has fun at their work, and so on and so forth. And so these partnerships are almost like shells at the current day. They don't exist at the present time, but they exist in terms of what's potential. They're like hollow circles in essence and such things, like shells that don't have hermit crabs in them right now and such. So what we want to do is fill them as the time goes by and such with pointed and conceptual pertinent partnerships to begin with that have to do with impact on the front end And as we sort of mosey down the path and do more podcasts such as this, that we want to draw more attention to the concept and the whole overall process as we go forward. Yeah, 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 yeah. And so merchandising is sort of a fun little byproduct of certain podcasts such as this, so that every single day when we've got a title, we can add art to this type of content, and we're making, in essence, a new product line to a degree that can be bought in the form of swag or other merchandise that can be kind of cool to represent each podcast each day in a certain form. If it is art that represents each little podcast or media that is put out by DINKY Tech, the dog, the bat dog, into the land, the land. So moving on from here, we've got the palace mentality, like that company Palace that does skateboarding partnerships. Skateboarding is their main brand, but they've partnered with many off-brand, non-skateboarding type brands, and this philosophy is sort of an energy that can travel onwards, and we want it to go into the philanthropy space and philanthropy energy to try to produce more philanthropy energy as a whole, because it seems to be more powerful than monetary energy. After all, after all, after all, after all. Moving down the pipeline, where is it that's next? We want to kick it down to conceptualizing how this can unify the globe. How does that happen? Exactly what we want to do is use a presence and a growth of hopeful global collaboratization to be able to provide that presence of empty shells, to be able to be full on a more often basis. It's called the unfulfilled potential market, and it spans and spans through every single country. So you want to fill all those shells with hermit crabs, after all, in terms of potential and such things, with philanthropy energy that has to do again with playing kind of like kids, where all people have the ability to fulfill a lot of those philanthropic shells by using philanthropic energy through the form of games and playing games. So that energy has the ability to spawn over the world through differing countries, yeah. And there are no borders, just people, and all the energy is pertinent and fluid throughout as it is shared, yeah. Obviously, this entails impacting and including and entailing the differing countries, and hopefully the energy can spread and form in its own sorts of culturations within each land, since every culture is a bit different, and we want it to sort of flow together, spawning and spanning from different origins that have no choice but to be acknowledged, because everybody at one time was a child. They were all kids, we were all kids, we were all kids at one time. So there's that ever-presence of an acknowledgement to never not know what that was like among all people, similar to the nature of sound that sort of has the ability somewhat to embody an overall connecting type of frequency. And in essence, how we want to try to close out our merchandising views is how to reflect ourselves in terms of what else is out there, and trying to reflect somewhat that there are brands somewhat like car companies that also develop merchandising, and that's somewhat sort of something that we might like to somewhat do, because manufacturing is kind of cool. It's kind of cool. And if we're able to connect with certain items the way that Porsche, the brand, has done, that is kind of cool. We can really spread the nature of items to manufacture up and down the line and influence different industries, like making cool wheelchairs for folks that do not have them, and make them super useful and interesting, and maybe even like off-road style, so that people that might not have the opportunity can take themselves down certain paths that they could not do before. And we have the ability to innovate through engineering, and we hope to go from that to clothing, one side to another. And hopefully this can be like somewhat a surfing type of mentality, type of vibe, type of a situation, and then we are also connectifying with differing abilities to make our interesting product and energies known. Thanks again, Dinky. Peace.